You're now tuned into Mpowered Mindz podcast.
You got going on
with your host,
no troubles won't last.
Aqeel Ash-Shakoor.
Last always.
Are you ready to be empowered? Well then, let's go.
It's gonna make you stronger. Whatever it is, it won't last much longer.
Troubles won't last.
No, your trouble won't last.
It was nice, I couldn't sleep. Man, I tossed and turned. Thinking about this next day and these dollars I gotta earn. It's all truth, pimpin'. See, Jen ain't lied. Man, many nights I've been broke. Sometimes I much rather die. Now see, I ain't saying I love it, but I can't fathom the thought, and I haven't enough of it. I wanna be.
Yeah, and we're back with Mpowered Mindz Season 1, Episode 6, and we're calling this one Not Receiving Auditions. Yours truly, your host, Aqeel Ash-Shakoor, and you know how we do it, so let's just jump right on in. Now, for this Episode 6, we're going to do things a little bit different because on this subject of not receiving auditions, it could get very lengthy, but we're just going to talk through and just talk about some things all in the atmosphere or the arena of why you're not getting auditions. I've been seeing lately that a lot of people have been getting frustrated because they're not receiving auditions. All right, they're thinking about maybe their agents or managers are not submitting them. I had to tell a friend this early this morning. I was like, remember, we've had several talks about why you cannot be receiving auditions. Now, at any time or any point that you feel that your agent or your managers are not submitting then you just simply ask for a submission report. That submission report is going to detail out, it's going to tell you the date, the project. It's going to tell you all the detailed information you need to know on what you've been submitted for. And depending on what range, normally with me, I always ask for at least maybe a quarter report, or I ask for my last 6 months. So I either ask for my last quarter report or either I ask for my last 6 months. So you don't want to do it every month. Now you can do it every month, which I know some people do, but I prefer to wait like 3 months, which, completes a quarter of the year, or a 6-month report. Now, the reason that I'm asking for this report is just simply because I want to see, have I been submitted? Because a lot of times when you get that submission report, and I have an old one over there, but I don't feel like getting it right now. So what I'm telling you is you can have about for 1 month, you can have as many as 30 or 40 or 60 submissions, right, per month. And never receive a call back, never get an audition, never get an audition, because the callback would come after you pretty much are selected and you had a self-tape audition, or you came into the office, to the casting director's office. And so what I'm telling you is that there are numerous reasons. And again, this is why I didn't want to chop this video up and just wanted to go straight through, because what I see a lot of times is that there's just so many reasons. I'm going to use myself for an example. Let's just look at it this way. All right. Maybe the reason that you're not getting auditions is simply because of your look. All right. Now, one of the things, if you've noticed with me in the last few videos, you've seen my hairstyle change. Now, I'm rocking what most people would probably not want to do is I'm rocking my natural hair. I have a natural salt and pepper look now at my age. Now, if you look, there are a lot of people that keep the fresh lineups. You've heard me talk about this all the time in videos about actors not changing their look. Their range is very different. But I want to tell you that at my age now, when I'm booking, a lot of what I'm booking are seasoned roles, right? That means that my age group is not going to, though I could play a 30-year-old and I played some, though I could still play a 30-year-old, it would cause for me to maybe dye my hair, to do something to my hair, maybe wear a ball cap or something to give me like a younger look. Now, a lot of what I'm working for personally is now I love period projects. I love anything with seasoned roles, because that is my range. That is my preferred range right now. right? Because I'm more into the storytelling, the real life adventures of people. And so I'm looking to make an impact with whatever work that I get into. My what I'm looked at also as is like being a father, a businessman. As you see me on Law and Order Special Victims Unit season 24 right now, I played the role of a seasoned officer, okay? I played the role of a seasoned officer. Now, there's no way that you're probably going to be able to reach a precinct commander and you're like 20 years old. I don't think I know one or heard of one yet. Not saying it can't happen, but, you know, you're talking about rising through the rank. If you know anything about law enforcement, you know you got to rise through the ranks, and that takes you some years. Now, generally by the time somebody hits that rank, I'm telling you, they're in their late 30s to probably early 40s or middle age 40s, all right? And definitely by the time you're probably 50 or 60s in a department, you're well into what you call a season role, and you're up there. Even with the military, same thing. I don't think I know if I'm a retired United States Marine Corps Gulf War veteran, and I don't think that I know one general. I don't think that I know one. Hardly do I know captains, but hardly do I know majors and colonels and lieutenant colonels and generals. I don't know any that are in their 30s. I'm telling you, they're somewhere around 40. They've had experiences, and so they continue to be in these seasoned roles. You understand? Yeah. So has anyone ever told you guys too that when you do your reels, you know, your demo reels, or you're sending in clips, that your reel or clip should start off directly on you, and it should be focused on you the entire time? I know a lot of times we get these, maybe you've done a lot of independent film, or maybe you had a small role in some big film or television show, right? But you maybe only had one line, and you're trying to figure out, now, how am I going to use this clip? And then you start off from like the scene opener, you know, maybe on that television show, and you don't have nothing but one word or one line in that entire dialogue amongst like several actors, and you want to use that. I want to tell you now that that's probably not the best clip to use for your reel, right? Just as so if you're doing like independent film, maybe you have more footage from independent film than you do the major, but still in that independent film, what you want to do is you want to grab that casting director as soon as they look. You want it to pop on. So though you may not get your entire dialogue or the entire scene, the casting director is only focused on you. Now, where a lot of us make our mistakes at is when we display the other actors, and then they start looking and getting caught up on what the other actors in the scene are doing, and they lose total focus of you. That's not what you want to do. So that could be another reason that you're not getting auditions. Why? Because when they're looking, some of your first representations of yourself that they're going to get the look at as casting directors when your agents are submitting you, because your agents and your managers need things like headshots. You know, so your headshot should be able to grab them. So if you're standing here and you know, good headshot, you know, whatever look you have, that's what they're looking at. This is the first thing they see. And then they say, wow, it's something about it pops. And as I was talking about my seasons of hair, being salt and pepper and everything, it displays what we call wisdom and knowledge and some understanding of the world. Looks like you've been doing something or had some experiences. So they look at that and they say, oh, I like that. I like that. And I've had a guest on before, and I forgot exactly how old she is, but she's a seasoned woman. And that was the thing that stands out the greatest about her, besides her smooth skin, is her beautiful hair. She wears it in a natural hairstyle, and it's salt and pepper. And so she's a woman that is a seasoned woman. So she can play a mother, and she can play a grandmother role. All right. She can even play a nice church lady. You see what I'm saying? For those roles. All right. Now, what you have to decide is what look are you going for? And then let's look at it this way. When you look at a lot of bad guys, a lot of the bad guys are pretty much I think the ones that I've seen, you know, they might have a sharp look to them, but when they're looking for those really rugged roles, they're looking for guys that have some scraggly going on. And a tip, I give you this tip. I found this out during COVID season because I booked a lot during COVID season, and my headshot photographer, because headshots photographers would have a lot of knowledge of the industry as well if they're in the industry, and so my personal headshot photographer Jen Stanko recommended. She said, "Yeah, keep the struggly, keep the beard." And this is when I took some previous headshots, and during that time I took some with my full beard. My hair was a little thicker, and so it was right for the season because pretty much a lot of people were in the straggly state. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at a lot of film that was filmed during that time, if they weren't playing some predominantly top level military role or something like that, where they had to be clean shaven, or they weren't playing a period piece, yeah, they had this scruggly face. And so some guys find themselves taking the headshots with the beard. There are a lot of shows too that if you look at the basis of the show in the area, because that's another thing when you're looking at different projects, you want to look at where it's centered around. In Chicago, I'll give you Chicago for one. If you look at a lot of the people that play on a lot of the shows, they got beards. They either got beards, they got goatees. Now, you turn it over to another place, and my show, Law and Order SVU. Now, the things you're going to notice about detectives is the detectives need to go undercover, so they're going to wear goatees. They're going to be a little straggly. They'll have their beards, mustaches. Hairs can be like any form or type. And so that's what you're looking at. So your look may be too clean. For the ladies, you might have some kind of hair color that's keeping you from getting certain jobs. You may have, if you're doing things and you're adding too many essentials like eyelashes, hair, and things, and not your natural. Young ladies are finding out now, just coming in their natural, they're getting booked quicker. All right? Because here's another thing. You got to think about it. When this casting director is looking at filling roles, they're looking at 1 million people. Now, what separates you from all these other people that have the same thing? All the eyelashes, the long hair, the, whatever essentials. I don't want to get too far off into that. Men, same way. Everybody comes in with a fade haircut, a crisp, all blacked out Beijing line. Everybody is looking like they're 30. Now, you got 1 million brothers or 1 million guys, when I say brothers, I mean of all colors, in for a role. All right? Now, if you just happen to be African American or somewhat that has some melanin in their skin, then you're up against all these people that all have a fade. There's nothing different about you. So you got the guys that come in with the afros or so whatever kind of hairdo. And then some are scruffy, some have the longer beards. So you got to not look at your competition, but you got to understand the room full of competition that you're in. And then you got to look at casting directors are also looking, a lot of times they're looking for names. And when I say names, I mean big names, people that they think are going to sell the film. That's what it is. Now, if you're a newcomer, I still consider myself a newcomer, even though I have, quite a bit of work behind me. But in the major market, no, I consider myself a newcomer. And that's something else too. Guys, stop getting above yourself. That's another reason that you're not getting auditions, because you're so above yourself and you don't want to listen to the things that you're being told that you might need to do. All right. And you're losing it. So even though you do get submitted, you don't get chosen to get a self-tape request. And so, therefore, you miss the mark then. So, again, if you haven't gotten these submission reports, you're just thinking, oh, I'm not being submitted. I haven't heard from my agent in a while. I haven't heard from my manager in a while. And it's simply because you're not booking. And there's one of my good friends would say it, that's in the acting industry. He's living in LA now. He was just saying, It's about them making money. The agents are here to make money. The management is here to make money. And if you're not booking, do I need to say it? Yeah, if you're not booking, then you're probably getting shuffled to the back somewhere. So you got to think of be creative. And then when you do get a self-tape audition, then you might need to think about these things. What are you doing differently? Here's another point. Case in point. When you're doing your auditions, or you're doing monologues, choose monologues that really fit you. Okay, because again, this is what's being presented to the casting director. So you're not getting called back because they're looking at you in your monologues or your reels, and you don't know where you're at. You don't know if you're auditioning for television, and you don't know if you're auditioning for film, or you don't realize you're auditioning for a commercial. So you may be too much in the theatrical world where you are high range and your facial expressions are big and enormous as if you're in the theater and it's a television show. And this is the reel that you're sending in to be on a television show, and they're looking at you and they're saying, nah. They're passing you by. So you need work that's going to be submitted. So when you're getting your reels together, you want to have a multitude of things. You want to pick out your best work and always start with your strongest piece, right? And you want to keep it moving. You want to give them all you got in a matter of about 90 seconds. Now, there are some reels that have been at least 3 minutes. I've had some out there myself and gotten booked. But professionally, the industry changes. It just goes back and forth. So you got to have a couple of things together. So on your Actors Access and your casting networks, you want to have things like just single clips, and then you can paste them together to make a reel there for a submission. And then you can also submit clips per whatever it is. And I know I've spoken about this before in other parts of the season, but again, there's just so many reasons. I don't think that I can name just one. You know, and talk to you guys. You got to talk to your agents and managers. Talk to your agents and managers. Talk to your agents and managers. Maybe they're just submitting you to the wrong type of work. Okay, maybe they're submitting you to the wrong type of work. Now, if you're being submitted to something like a law enforcement television show, you could have a goatee. You possibly could even have a beard if you're probably doing something like undercover work, or maybe you're an FBI agent, because you got to face it now. The world is changing. They're just passing laws where you can wear your natural hair, or you can't be discriminated against your hair. So we're going to be seeing a lot of different things going on in film. You understand what I'm saying? Now, even the Middle Eastern cultures, or not just the Middle Eastern cultures, but women that are of the Middle Eastern culture and some of the faiths that rise from out of the Middle East, like Islam and different things, to wear, even nuns or whatever, but specifically like having to wear the head covering or the hijab to cover their head, they're getting roles. Let's be for real. I can think of Quantico. I could think of, NCIS, New Orleans. They're just different shows that where the head covering, they're getting work. So pretty much they're removing all the excuses of why we're not being auditioned or why we're not receiving auditions. I can't tell you it's just one thing. And then sometimes you just have to understand this is an art that requires true perseverance. So maybe if you didn't jump into your SAG membership too quickly, you could go back and just do independent work. And it's nothing at all wrong with doing independent work. I'm at a point now of getting not a break, but I'm attempting to see where I can at least work in at least maybe one film per year, or maybe 2 films per year, in between my times of booking major work, right? Because it's still room to hone your craft. You understand what I'm saying? Don't just get into independent, and I keep telling you, don't just take the independent work for granted. Use it to practice the skills that you've learned in your acting classes, because we still should be taking acting classes or getting some other knowledge of the industry. All right. And so take that time, understand what film is best for you. Take the time when you're in the independent room to get the clips that you need, get the presence that you need, build it. And while I'm there, let's look at this. Why are you not getting auditions? Why are you not getting auditions? Some of us too, if you've worked a lot in the independent world and you've gone through the independent world and you've built relationships, you've had a lot of one-on-one relationships. You know the productions, you know the producers, all the production directors, you know the cameramen, you know the sound man, you know the boom holders, you know the gaffers, you know, the ADs that went on to be directors, you know, the assistant to the assistant to the assistants, you know, the receptionist, you know, everybody within the arena of the independent markets that you're working. And therefore, you have been building relationships. So it's easy for them to recall, hey, I want Aqeel on this film. I think he'll be great for this part. Or reach out to Aqeel for this and that, and or reach out to Tina for this because I know she did. You know, they have you on their mind, right? And so you're not only being booked, but you're cast, right? And you're shooting multiple films because you're in the network. You're in the network. And just like in the major industry, you have a lot of, or it's maybe a lot, but you have quite a few director and actor teams to where directors, anytime they got a movie, they attempt to bring in some of their favorite actors. All right. And not excluding actresses. And what this does is when they get the chance to do something big and they get a script that producers want them to do, they have an idea for who they want. Now, watch this. Watch this. Those same directors that work in the independent sector grow up just like they grow up, and they grow in craft, and then they become major industry directors. So they do the same thing, but now, okay, now this is a whole new world. So if the project is SAG and they're not taking non-union, they can't use any of that base that they had before. You understand what I'm saying? Until those guys level up. Right? And so now they're in this arena, and let's be for real, the chances of you getting real personal with a director is going to be when you book, and you really book a significant role to where you have a lot of time to work with that director, and maybe you've worked with a director on another project. I've been blessed as well on several TV shows now, the way I've worked with some repetitive directors. Matter of fact, on the same show, I've worked with, I don't want to call names, but even on Chicago Med, I've worked with a director in a previous season, and then I got the call back for another season to play a character. And because the work that I did was credible enough for her to remember, yes, it was a female director, right? And also be mindful. Another reason you might not be getting auditions is because of in this same field. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Watch this. You have directors that are directing and don't think that they don't know when you're an extra and you're screwing off on set. You see, I remember when I started off in 2015, and then when I began to graduate and start doing extra work on the Chicago shows, I remember directors, I remember their faces, I remember them looking out at people, and I remember them walking into rooms looking at extras. And I'm watching, production is in, and then they call out about 3, 4, 5, sometimes even 6 people. And what they call them out for is not about trouble. They call them out to give them lines in the production. Isn't that crazy? Somebody that came in as an extra, production walks in while you're in hold and they're looking around, and they pull people. Now, I haven't been blessed to do that yet. And I'm not per se not doing extra work anymore. However, I've never been blessed in that way to where I was pulled to be given lines. Now, I have, even on Law and Order, I have been given, even on my first official shoot last year, I was given more work than what I actually auditioned for. More lines, more scenes, even in On Sacred Ground, that will be coming to stars on May 1st. I acquired more lines of that was previously another actor's lines, and they still gave him lines, but they cut some of his lines and put them over to me, and so I've been blessed with that. So you may not be getting auditions when you're submitted for them, because maybe the director of that film knows that you're unprofessional. They saw how you played around while you were in holding, or they saw how you played around when you were on set. Someone had to constantly tell you to be quiet, because now time is money. Time is money. Sometimes this equipment isn't all paid for that they're using. They have hundreds of $1,000s worth of equipment to shoot a show. Some of it's rented. Yes, some of it is actually rented. And if they have to keep refilming stuff, they got to come back another day and do film because of this one actor or these two actors or actresses. Chances up when they see your name come across, you're not going to get a call back, or you're not going to get an audition at any rate. So there can be a number of things. Like I said, I can go on and on about this, but you have to consider all things. You have to consider all things. Like I said, know where you're supposed to be. Know what range you're supposed to be at. Know if it's theater or television or commercial or film. All right? Now, one of the last things I'll talk to you about is simply this. Knowing your presence on camera, okay? Knowing your presence on camera. Knowing your presence on camera, because the directors, when they see work and when they're looking at your film, they want to know too that you know your placements. They know you can hit marks. Now, they learn all of these things from your reels that you're seeing in your clips. They're looking at you. They're looking at your work, right? So they're looking at your work and they're saying, okay, they don't understand camera presence, right? Because you're looking here. Some of you in your clips, you're like this the entire time. You're just talking and you're moving all about. And this is what they're looking at in your demo reel. So you're talking, you're giving a dialogue and it's supposed to be serious. And you're talking to one person, but yet you're over here, your eyes are blinking. It's so distracting. Sometimes it's just technique to 4 to 6 inches off the lens and to talk. And then sometimes you have the freedom to, but you don't come back. So it could be a number of things. So you cannot get frustrated within yourselves to believe that the only reason that you're not getting auditions is because your agents and your managers are not submitting you. That's just not it. All right. So listen, guys, just to wrap up this season 1, episode 6, not receiving auditions, I just want to tell you that you have to work on your craft. All right. And might I put a staple in this to say, another actor, you calling another actor to reference you in order to get on a project, that may work a lot in the independent sector, but in the major network, they consider that attempting to skip steps. Where's the professionalism in that? Who are you represented by? That's like unsolicited work. They're seeing you moving about and they're like, no, this isn't it. Who's their agent? Just have the agent submit to the project. Yes, I've heard about these things happening, and that's another way you get a bad mark on your name. So it's not a person that doesn't care about you, that don't want to help you, and it just simply doesn't work that way. All right. So again, this is Aqeel Ash-Shakoor, your host of Mpowered Mindz. And like I said, we just dialed down on this one because I wanted to talk to you so much more personally. I want you to understand that you can't get down on yourselves if you're doing the work that you should be doing to book. All right. So just continue to build your craft. Build your craft. Get as much work under your belt, much good work up under your belt. Continue to hone your skills and watch your spirit. That's another thing that keeps you from getting auditions, all right? And I don't know about you, but what I'm going to ride out on is my faith. My faith in God keeps me. So, because even last year, the first booking that I got didn't come until July. That's right. Halfway over the year, I got my first booking. Now, I had work that I had done previously that was releasing, but my first booking didn't come until July of 2022 of that year, for that year. Yep. So those first 6 months went by, and then on the 7th month, I got booked for Law and Order, and then it was on and pouring, and it ran. My bookings ran throughout the year, and now I'm back. So I'm telling you guys, there could be a number of reasons why you're not being, where you're not receiving auditions. So work on those things that I've talked about. Make some heavy choices, some great decisions, and keep plugging in. Again, hey, this has been Mpowered Mindz, Season 1, Episode 6, Not Receiving Auditions. Your host, yours truly, Aqeel Ash-Shakoor. Hey, don't forget to persevere. God bless.
Didn't need the drama, all my bills still do. Keep pushing, bro, I'm up to my last breath gone. Past left alone, till I see my king sitting high on the throne. Focus is what I'm on, by any means. Holmes used to say if I don't blow, I'll put it to my dome. I'll be chasing that money from the bottom to the top. Try to be the billionaire before the casket drop. And I know, in my heart, man, I wanna live right. Got right with my king, now we tight, yeah.
If it don't kill you, it's gonna make you stronger. Whatever it is, it won't last much longer. Trouble won't last always. Trouble won't last always. If it don't kill you, it's gonna make you stronger. Whatever it is, it won't last much longer. Trouble won't last always. Trouble won't last always.
From mine to your neck of the woods, I've been the truth. If I said that, I did that. Never once just for the booth. I was too smooth for nicks and dimes. Love blue collar crime. If you need it, I had it. Assurance, the credit lines. If I died, I was on my way to hell, bro. I was living foul.